Welcome to the Quintessential Listening Poetry Online Radio and YouTube Podcast, streamed live from the heart of Washington, D.C. Here, you'll find a portal to vibrant voices, echoing souls, and an ongoing celebration of the extraordinary power of language. Prepare yourself to join host Dr. Michael Anthony Ingram and his special guests as they explore traditional and spoken word forms of poetry.
Women, as the master weavers of global poetics, channel resilience, compassion, and profound insight. Through their stories, women offer diverse perspectives, fostering empathy and the transformative potential of poetry. Their voices, echoing with strength worldwide, inspire us to stand in solidarity. Join us to hear 7 remarkable women and a young girl share their enriching perspectives through the power of poetry. Nona Lea, the United States.
Thank you. From Equator to Crawl, after Dianata, published in Redwood Thorns Magazine, Volume 2. I come from the all-men people. From the if a cow licks the privates of another cow, you cut off her tongue, spirits of hellfire and brimstone. I come from a Pisces wearing a mask of tragedy and comedy, married to a mirror of pale gangrene, and a little white house of rain mosquitoes, and their dangly little notes mocking me. Jesus loves me. Jesus loves me not. I come from the swamp water eyes, the fear of moccasins falling from magnolia trees, mosquitoes paling Mother Mary, and a summer-December crawl space. But I was born from a closet of hungry tongues, from night sweats thick and sticky as water from the womb, from a belt who craved blood and saline and pleading for mercy. I was born when the eyes leered me up and down, and their hungry tongues ran over their sticky teeth. I was born when the eyes followed me around Walmart, community parks, and college campus. I remembered, in a wildlife documentary, gazelles who jump the highest don't get eaten. I remembered male lions leave you alone if you bare your teeth and fluff your feathers. I was born when I smashed a wine bottle on the ground and screamed as blood spread around my feet. Anyone want to fight me? Their eyes always watching, their tongues always wanting. I was bubbles and sunshine, and they made me mold, and they made me darkness. And my womb can only birth broken toys who need a mommy to love them unconditionally, and she won't. Mommy doesn't want another lion or gazelle. Mommy doesn't want tongues running over her lips or the eyes humming with candy cane veins and night sweat. Mommy has pearly black nightmares clean underneath her bright red shell, and they are her babies, and she kisses them good night. And Mommy promises to her clutchlings, I will never go home. Ancestral sin. Shadows with spines crooked as clothes hangers ooze from the cracks of the kitchen tiles, scuttling on barbed wire legs and beneath the refrigerator, plucking filmy black cords and banjoing a tune from the old record. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, you got guilt all between your toe, all because you left your brainchild choking in the cradle. Crawling from the white pickets of the cradle, tiny fat fingers call, squeezing open and close, mouthing like a baby bird. I'm so hungry, Mommy, please feed me? Mommy is sorry, baby, but when Mommy squeezes her tits, all that comes out is a flatulent hiss. The desire to be perfect is a maternal parasite, passed from mother to child through the placenta, playing chords of the past. You're never going to make any money at that. My mama told me she was born a book without an ending. Her parents gave up on her story when they found out she was never going to fulfill the white picket fantasies. Mama loves me. Yes, my mommy loves me. But she can't help me author my own story, while shadows with tinsel fingers stalk her, sputtering in the walls, distorted expectations of success. Sins of a mother passed to the daughter. From crevices of the baseboard they skittered under the blanket of night, crawled into my cradle, nursing me on cacophony lullabies. As I walk in my mother's shadow, bathing my feet in darkness, I pinch my wound for oil. Come hungry, spirits of the nursery will boil. Devour parts of me gone, parts of me that now scream hollow, until muses strum from the stretching shadows. All your baby will be, if you wait to milk until I sing, is another book without an ending. I pick my bones clean, nursing the parasite inside me, while it seems sins are always passing. Inside your child is a wriggling pain of mommy passed to baby, destined to produce from pale fleshy gums twisted teeth. Underneath the fridge, darkness hisses. Does mommy love me? Mommy loves her baby. Yes, she loves her baby. Mommy only wants what's best for her baby, like her own mommy for her. And even if my mommy can't finish my story, I know my mommy loves me, warts, crooked toesies, incomplete, and she won't abandon me like her parents did her. But there's an underlying belief I must be perfection lest be abandoned. I must consume myself otobotos because consumption is sacrifice, and sacrifice is a mother's love. Meaning, I don't want my child to end up just like me, another hope for a parasite passing. And if baby is perfect, then won't she break the cycle? If you are loved without being perfect, then do you need to be perfect to be complete? Mommy shakes her head no, and she walks out of her mother's shadow. She holds her child into her chest and whispers as she's cradled, "You are never going to be perfect, but I will love you, and I will kiss you anyway." Hereditary. I guess you could call me a hoarder, for I am heavy with fruit, and each pillar of my backbone creaks under the slow, ravenous strangle of lemon tree roots. Like my mother and hers before her, its seed grew from a niggling, threading in the cavities between bones, fibers lacing taut, molding a neck gnarling to heavens, or in a thick, glossy crown, a cloud decadent with snow plumes, hanging heavy overhead, cloy, hazy, and leaching. See, while my mother and her mother clutched their fruit like fresh white pearls, moonish, lustrous, even when the jewels sagged in their fist, pruning until ocean foam ebbs along the yellow shell, paraded by a festivity of flies infatuated with a sweet, sickly rot, even as the cloud above their heads shaded their faces in darkness, and the boughs, grown heavy, staggering the gate until their knees wet the earth, and roots cracked bones, needling skin to dirt, gnarling faces to bark, and etch of bones, dryad skeletons formed wooden. They choose to grin and bear hoard pearls riddled and maggots and waste. I am resilient, however. Lord knows I am resilient. Even while the lemons hunch my silhouette into a crescent, each season its leaves grow pregnant underneath its jeweled canopy. An avarice of whispers ask me to become bedridden. I want to be generous. I will sow an orchard, pains in my labor, long as my own lineage, and almost as bitter. And this orchard will be scattered plentiful, rivers of glimmering gold across a clean blue earth, leaving the world aching under a taste of my gravity. And when the root hairs will meld with flesh to flesh, bones to bones, squeeze me generously. I will be a gildless crown sinking into a belt of mulch. There in rest, I will give all of me to all of you. Unconditional love. Emerge from the carcass of a flesh-bodied cocoon, feast on my liver, my intestines, and my womb, swallow star-woven cloth in my gallbladder, fashion my pasty, freckled skin into a leather sweater. Swaddle yourself, my child, save my chocolate irises last, and let me watch you consume and grow. Leave my pulsing heart unfeasted, package it in duct tape for on the go. Hug with your lungs a rancid warmth that only comes from a mushroom cloud. Suckle yourself on yellow smog that never dissipates. Sing along to the lullabies of apocalypse sirens. Munching the faces of other babies. Find them delicious. How could you not? Cut your apologies to the mothers, shredded inside a complete bacon baby face so wrapped. Fixate your mind like a bleeding comet, gouge open with fleshy stomach noodles spilling on sulfur and cement. Take naps in my flesh-cleared ribcage now and always. Shudder in delight with your belly full of all my bodily nourishments. Gift me doting little gnaw marks on my skeleton. Raise your face up to the sun, eclipse its light with the midnight behind your fangs. Defecate on all those who defy you. Obey the hollowed echoes and the repetitive commands. Collect severed infant hands until your work is done. And let my flesh-feasted carcass rot in the June sun. Magnolias. I was brought into the land of giants spidering across the bayou. Cicadas humming their harmonicas, moss creeping on two stones, and streets flooding with embalming fluid. I was brought into this world on a hot December day through a prayer. Lord, please grant me a little girl with bright red hair, and I'll name her the prettiest name I've ever heard, Nona Lea. Nona Lea, the great-grandmother I know from a painting of magnolias blooming in the life cycle of maiden, mother, and crone. A bud about to twist open its petals, a pregnant bloom dancing ball-gowned, falling to post-abscission, curling inwards as the babies leave the nest, and the flower asks, "What do I do next?" Nona Lea, who married into a bloodline that came to these lands hunting for greener pastures, to shapeshift grasses into cold hard cash by means of sweat and by means of blood, praying to God, but praying louder to the almighty dollar. Nona Lea, who watched her heritage be buried under a magnolia tree by a woman in a sundress, wearing long gloves stretching to her elbows, a big southern lady hat shading her face and shoulders, and papers hungry for a percentage of blood, moaning in an esoteric tongue. Nona Lea, who was supposed to have been Nona Lea if the doctor did not take creative liberties. And while this might not be a legally binding document, we can correct that mistake today and call you by your mother-given name, Nona Lea. Nona Lea, do you know what your name means? I've searched our meaning in as many languages that will take to find a secret meaning, a sort of connection, a hidden heritage to you. All my life, people have been asking, what's your real name? Because they think Nona must be a nickname for something like Winona or Ramona. Since my name is so alien to their ears, it sounds like the static mutterings of a scratch record, and they are certain the lyrics they heard are wrong. So they call me names they think my name should be. Nina, Mona, Rona, Nikki, Julie, Barbara, Janny. Those who recognize my name tell me in Italian, Nona means grandmother, and they ask if my parents purposely named me an old lady. Though, when actually translated, English adds an extra N, making the name Nana matching with the pattern Mama. And when I inform them of this, their all-knowing grins tilt down, and they still struggle to swallow my name. But Nona is not an unfinished name. It is not misheard. It is not wrong. She finds her roots in ancient Rome as a name given to a ninth daughter, because her name is synonymous with the number 9. But she is not just a number. Nona is the fate who spins the thread of life, and as pregnancy is 9 months, as a baby spins the womb from a thread connected to its mother, the number and the goddess become intertwined. While it's not clear which came first, the goddess or the prefix, and while most baby name blogs suggest the number was paired with the goddess, no Roman in their right mind would ever name a number before naming a goddess. Therefore, all Nonas are not by definition numbers, but goddesses. Nona Lea, did you know you shared a name with a goddess? Did you also know that Lea means clearing or meadow of grasslands? So when you combine the meaning of your first and middle name, it becomes the goddess of the flowering grasslands who spins life from her spindle. Isn't that just beautiful for someone who loved to garden? I was always told you wear this big sun hat, gloves reaching to your elbows, and you toil flowers and vegetables, wearing a sleeved dress coming down to your ankles. And even when the sun could sizzle butter in a cast iron pan, even when the humidity pearled your cheeks, you'd wear the whole outfit. Because if the sun got a hold of your skin, it would turn brown red, and back then and still today, the only skin type it was safe to be matched with was egg whites. Lee means grasslands. My name, Lea, means delicate or weary. And I am very weary of its masculine variation because even though my eyes are just like yours and have resisted colonization, my skin is right now tanned and still white as my damn bones. See, Lee is a name associated with Confederacy, and I'm sure you could find a statue of him somewhere down here in the Blue State. I don't want a name associated with a legacy of slavery that people with American and Confederate flags call just a dispute of states' rights and has nothing to do with slavery. And while your name would mean a goddess who creates life, mine, if spelled Lee, not Lea, would imply the opposite. But I'm rather fond of the meaning of my name as is now, the weary goddess who spins life from her spindle. Because I am so fucking tired of people asking me where my name comes from. I still don't know why your mother named you Nona Lea. And I still don't know why, even though you painted other flowers, watercolor lilies and cracked ceramic pots, you painted magnolias most beautifully. When my mother wasn't looking, I often traced the groove of the strokes, following the vanilla curves of the blooming petals, the waxy large leaves, staring at the signature at the bottom of the frame, with a personality quieter than my own. Maybe you painted them most beautifully, because giant flowers blooming from a land of tombstones, mosquitoes, and slick, stagnant mud, with startling white petals standing in sheer defiance of the miasma, are magical. Maybe, like the magnolias, you also want to be remembered as beautiful. To me, your name is beautiful. Rest in peace, Nona Lea. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Nona. I would like to ask you the following questions. From a global perspective, in what ways do you see your poetry contributing to a global conversation about women's experiences?
A confessional poet predominantly, it's really difficult to see the greater impact of my own work because I really just talk about me as opposed to social issues. It really was not until I started sharing with others in different spaces that they began informing me of how my work impacts them and how my voice and message are very needed. And some of the poems, which I have not read today, discuss issues of sexual traumas, which I have been told I need to really just go on a bigger stage and start reading about this and start talking about this because the topic is so taboo that it would help others just to start a conversation about it. It may open difficult conversations for victims, parents, and more, but it would shed light on an issue.
Thank you. Activism and art. In what ways does your poetry serve as a form of activism, especially in relation to women's rights and empowerment?
I'm glad you asked that. I did really select a lot of mother-child poems for this reason, and it's that whether we want to or not, a lot of times we do harbor the problems our parents have. We inherited their bad habits, we inherited their traumas, we inherited the lines like, you're not going to make any money at that. You're not, why bother? What difference is that going to make? That kind of line of thought is what I'm trying to undo in my poetry. I'm trying to divide myself from those phrases and expectations and have my own story that's separate. And it is difficult because if you love your family, you will want to try to seek their approval. But I'm not here to make my mother proud. I'm here to be me. I'm here to live by the standards that I need to live by to make an impact. And while I really can't see how my own story and my own poetry will impact others, maybe in years I'll be able to find out particular poets that I know of. Laurie House Anderson. She had written a couple books. One was Speak, and in it she used a fictional character to write about her own rape and the problems with that. And after publication, she got so many letters from people who, both men, women, non-binary, who also experienced the same thing. And it formed a community where they can actually feel validated in their emotions and release their shame. And I think that's a big part of it, is if you talk about the taboo, then others will say, hey, that's me. That's also what I go through. And they will talk about it too, as opposed to keeping it inside. And when you release it, you no longer have that shame. You are able to heal.
Thank you. So in terms of collaboration, one of the things that's important as a poet is opportunities to work with other people. Have you experienced any collaborative efforts or connections with other women poets globally, and how has this influenced your creative process?
I cannot think of a single instance where I have not on some level collaborated with other women-identifying artists. We bounce ideas off each other. We help each other edit. We help each other speak up. We watch each other's backs. We talk to each other in the dead of night to soothe any ills of the heart. There really is no such thing as being a solitary poet or an artist. Only those who exist in various degrees of sociology, such as introverts and extroverts. We are social creatures, as most humans, and nothing beautiful is truly done alone.
Thank you. In terms of literary inspirations, are there specific women poets from other cultures who have inspired or influenced your work, Nona?
Many of the women-identifying poets who inspire me thoroughly are poets who I've become friends with over the months of Zoom. Phynne Belle, for instance, inspires me quite a lot. Her connection with nature and magic is always so invigorating and empowering to witness. Her amazing performance and cadence, and overall just beautiful imagery and wording. Aside from my own social circles, like many poets, I adore Naomi Shihab Nye's poignant work. She encapsulates such powerful interpersonal and social commentary with such concision and brevity. To choose a favorite Nye poem would be an impossibility. They're all so expertly crafted. Another poet I enjoy, perhaps for the opposite reasons, is Layli Long Soldier. Her book, Whereas, is a difficult read, but thoroughly enjoyable if you are a lover of visual poetry. The collection expertly situates me in the mind of an American indigenous experience, demonstrating the oppressive force of language and history of American indigenous people, conveniently left out of most educational history books. Another poet I could squeal about in excitement over is Franny Choi. There are very few grotesque poets, and it's significant to myself as a fellow grotesque writer to see someone who does such wonderful and intersectional work. However, Maureen P. Medina is the poet who has probably influenced most of my work, and just me as a person. I attend her workshops religiously, and she has absolutely no idea how instrumental she is in my undertaking of healing myself through poetry. And she is a role model for me in other aspects. Maureen, if you're watching this, hi.
Thank you. Anna Maria Dall-Olio, Italy.
Appunti di perestetica. Bello, giusto, utile, oltre, 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 grandine. Le immagini gocciano, gocciano, gocciano. La diagnosi, anestesia da estasi. L'arte penetra l'etere del mondo. Il pianeta s'annuvola di bello. Bellezza a rivoli su commerciale. L'esperienza estetica odierna, non più ancorata all'arte, vibra oltre il limite, tende all'al di sopra, infine libera da lacci, libera la modernità liquida, oscilla in continuo oltreandare. L'autore, finora demiurgo, dissolto nelle collaborazioni, attende metamorfosi impreviste, ora dinamico lo spettatore, vesti sguardi scambiati, destinatari interagenti, sempre si modella l'opera d'arte, piovono nel lavoro estetico arte e artisti, ricezione dell'arte. Di fronte al frutto del lavoro estetico, l'arte non fugga, non s'apparti, sia bene, produttivo, utile. L'etica fiorirà da forma, l'etica salverà il sentire.
Phynne Belle, the United States.
I am a banishing spell. I am the waiting candle. I am the licking flame. I am the banana blossom heart-bearing sand pebble tear. I cast out the hollow trunk chest. I cast out the rot consuming my sugar pulp center forgiveness gnawing at my guava bark goodwill. I am the pepper bitter rosemary. I am the salt of my dissipation. You do not touch the fine red dust on your knees to the woven mat of our bamboo yielding floor. She sways once. She dances along with the shifting weight within my muscles. She reminds me in the curvature of my relenting reed body resides the tensile will of twining fiber perseverance, of not cragged patience. You are not welcome here. I am the pungent, sweet sage. I am the sacred tree branch. I am my palm cupped beneath the gentle flow. The spring water creek delivers in her generosity. Know this. I wash my hands of you. Your fate is not solvent object, is not tangible, is not your will. Through Sister Hecate, your poison is cleansed into its beginnings, into its purity. My surrender is our offering. I see my three stern faces relieved of their sorrow. I am cradled within furled flesh fronds of my safety. So it was. Blessed be. So it is.
Phynne.
Doppelganger's Litany. When I begin days, I enter the room, or does the room enter me? A girl who wears my honey brown skin was in the room with me today, but she wore a slightly altered face. A girl visits me every day, a different one for each way the sun positions itself through my open window. She comes through and sits in perfect quiet and smiles, waiting her turn to speak, waiting for permission to move. When I am ready and she is ready, she looks around, takes the complete measure of the space, opens her mouth wide, tasting the air with the surface of her hard palate, much like a cat. A quick flick of her tongue to confirm all she needs to know of this new world beforehand. When she is done, she swallows the room, or the room swallows her. The world wants me only pineapple exotic. Pray for us. The world wants me to please speak only English in here. Pray for us. The world wants me to clean up their mess, but go back to my goddamn country. Pray for us. Let us pray. When the world creeps between my thighs, it impregnates me by force. It calls the debacle an immaculate conception, feigning and unsullied white. But doesn't virgin sacrifice demand blood, and doesn't blood stain red and unrust? Today a girl comes and decides whether to sip or gulp down this room. When she can pass beneath notice, she breathes a sigh of relief. She's always known she was only as good as each face she made sure to tuck and smooth over the previous face rotting underneath. Do not take the blessing of code switching in vain. Blending in is a gift from the gods. Our Lady of Culture, gone to the wayside. Pray for us sinners. Amen. Litany. My mama was the peeler of apple skins, the eye of perfection in straight-edged impossibility, of soft, semi-translucent skins, of harina, of asin, of tubig, of nestling, of nurturing, mother of taming beasts, mother of returning wave, mother of expectant soil, was steady hand fashioned metronome blade rhythm hum against resistance and fragrant wood, against malleable flesh and fat of laman ng manok, of karne ng baka, of puwersa ng buhay. Mother of all sustenance, mother of the bountiful, mother of the cornucopia womb. Diyosa ng kasaganaan. My mama, Luby, laughed the rising sun, full belly rich, into the still dark nestle of the pigeon coop, startling its carousel navy and morning gray residents. My mama relieved the swaying bamboo rack of its gleaming stiff whites, arranged them gap-toothed even upon the clothesline, shifted their curtain of starchy cloth, shifted clouds from forming, from brewing their storms above head. My mama, siren calling, teeming sea of cats in her wake, waves of hunger rising with response in husky feral voices. Feed us, mermaid queen, they rejoin, in asynchronous chorus, tempo lulls, tempo feverish. My mama, Pied Piper ballerina, choreography of fingers swirl in yesterday's toasted rice rind, in abundance of bronze scale snowfall, in transparent, curved comb of naked fishbone. Rejoice, their murmur swells and washes over their numbers. Today, we are such well-fed gents. My mama, Diwata, summons the rainfall now at will, Libra balance of silver, full moon palangana, gracing her left hip, wooden ladle divining stick aloft in her right palm. The thirsty soil prayed through the night to be quenched. Anituntabo, moody fickle goddess, their fervent whisper ripples the ground. Will you be the face of kindness on this day? This poem is called They Say Chill Out. Oh yes, see before you the woman you did not create, not Adam's apple pie, a serpent's delight. Do not blame the snake for the mother, for the downfall, for this proliferation of the blame we all see now on cave walls scratched out, a habit to perfect and mingle into history, predates the papyrus, then the spear, then the gun. Woman is the devourer of her regrets, her legs prized open for men to crawl inside, incubate, as they dictate to her within her uterine walls what is her own. Here they long to set up house with a deck of playing cards, watch in fascination as they collapse upon themselves and topple over. The queen still praying to stand atop the pile, flowing to the bottom, suffocated by the avalanche instead. She placed a long-distance call today to ask her mama's forgiveness already granted, but she craved in words hollow reassurance, willed the sensation as a cool hand upon her forehead, but she didn't know yet. Heaven doesn't take calls, collect, doesn't reach back down to the living, doesn't care at all between the first war and the final breath. We are once pretty playthings collecting dust. The plastic still covers all the sofas and the carpet, yellow, cracked. She does not know what to do with them. She was taught to cast her eyes downward, turn the corner of her mouth upward, and close lip smiles. Meanwhile, suburbia frays at the edges. She will not walk the worn path anymore. Superstition fills up each crack, and she steps over once, tries again. The gap you left between each stone to balance on briefly and mourn isn't enough to create a toehold, and she flounders, tips forward, now a PVC Dorothy prone in a damn field of menacing poppies. Do you wave from across the footbridge, rainbow bridge, bridge this chasm, because she says she will not be bamboozled, will not walk blind across this road of buttercup gold, will not storm the gates of an Oz of copper verdigris when no one waits there at the other end. There was never a wizard. She knows how she became the fool who pulleys all the ropes, toggles the switches. Was Babel always this tall, casting shadow as they all climb it upside down? The prince never had it this tough, pulling on Rapunzel's hair hard to make her cry out, please, please, now desecrate her temple tower. Practice makes perfect. By the 10 dozen, they can now populate the walls with ease, not break a sweat hanging on, spider legging upward, silk web rappelling downward. No one knows what the other is saying. So who will slow down the frenzy of progress, stop to listen, admit they are lost, ask for directions? The Virgin, squatted among the cosmos, bled birth of the heaven and earth. She is conceived to be everything, but also nothing. Born ravenous, consuming the mother's placenta, suffered under the thumb of mankind, crucified for the lies of original sin daily. She knows her way south to Hades and a left turn into limbo. She will come again and again of her own accord, both the Alpha and the Omega. She is reincarnation of the two spirit, the strength in the sisterhood of the Hijra and the Binaba'i, the mystery of the confessor and survivor of your transgressions, the resurrection from her own defilement, and life given and taken away. Amen. She will not shut her mouth. Sit the fuck down and chill out. Further reflections on not being denied enough. Look at me. I will never pass for a perfect bride or a perfect daughter. Can it be I'm not meant to play this part? Now I see that if I were truly to be myself, I would break my family's heart. I say, look at me, but I don't truly want you to see. I want you to superimpose a pert nose, a figure, bayabas or sampalok tree, slender and tall, not the stout ground-hugging trunk I was given. Though the salted water of the ocean, karagatan, na tumitira sa tuktok ng aking ulo, blew easterly wind benediction in my direction, naming me native daughter. Our collective colonial mentality could not spy me past the translucence found inside mistisang bangos that also ordained my crowning glory should be the exact replica of a regal baby's buhok palmolive. My tío punctuated my tropical fever initiation into a newborn life, brown, nestled among brown with the oddest premonition. Seeing the sweat beads gather on my nose and making the prediction that I would marry early. But this still did not make me the store-bought picture of domesticity. I failed at that too. Too many pots stirred while singing top 40s, the stifling heat of a stovetop, my captive audience. This still did not make me a meek and obedient daughter. I couldn't comply, Daddy. I couldn't fashion this disaster into a child who you could show off to relatives and acquaintances. The world was seducing me and waiting outside our door, and the prepackaging of this provincial life boxed me in, cellophane wrapping tight. Wrong tale, naturally. I cannot be that Disney princess either. I am not meant to play this part. Who is that girl I see? I'm careful concentration as I drink in her every feature. Why does her face take shape inside my mind, but step just out of reach when I try to meet her? Does anyone know this impudent woman and why she finds it so amusing to be staring straight back at me? She is me? She is not. You are lying. Why is my reflection someone I don't know? Upon my pale arms are lovely scars of my own creation. Bawat saya merely blur the racier edges ng katawan ko. Somehow, I cannot hide who I am, though I've tried. When will my reflection show who I am inside? So this last piece is called Venus Arbularia. Siya, ng damong Maria para sa masakit na tiyan. Quiet down the tide of your arrival, sister, shush. The vehemence of your crimson low moon river. Quell the swelling wave of you, woman wilded. Imbibe mugwort, sanguine marked your worth. Stigmata form between your parted thighs proclaims you blessed. Halt the crimson flash flood, cauterized clean. Behold, they'll make a holy woman of you yet. Siya ng damong Maria, damo, dumi, consume soil, eat dirt, dirty, filthy. Marumi, they say. Marumi si Maria Santísima Sagrada Sacrificio. Sacrifice her, consecrate her, re-baptize her in their image. Painted over, lily unmarked, white, to the nave, where the vestal hearth altar will not burn for her, will not burn for them, will not burn them. They will burn for her. They burn her whole. Burn her at the stake, stake a claim, holy, holy, commit immaculate conception, birth of a virgin, born upon a latch-trapped shell, snapped shut. Celibate angels will lift a harlot's weight in misdirection, her story awash in fleeting seafoam brushstroke. History repigmentation, done in a heavy hand, done in the shadow alley guilt, gilded, golden, goaded ratio. The masters, St. Stephen, stone silent, stone ground, cuckold worship, midnight mass attendance, see a God, man span the sky extends a groping limb, bars us entry to the glassy heavens of the ceiling, to touch his humanity, to self-pleasure his ego, to fabricate the high holy writ in Sistinian gargantua proportions. The reclining goddess is exiled in repose, body incorruptible, body rose-scented sweet, smiling up at her ambient drowsy constellations. Listen, a capon crows 3 times before dawn breaks the heavens. Thank you. End of set.
Thank you, Phynne Belle. When we think about women from an international perspective, activism and art are often part of the equation. In what ways does your poetry serve as a form of activism, especially in relation to women's rights and empowerment?
When you asked that question, what automatically came to my mind was this term that I was recently introduced to. And there's also, surprisingly, a book that bears that same title. And the title is Poetry as a Form of Spell Casting. So when I looked more into the idea behind this poetry as spell casting, I was so deeply grateful. And I have to admit, more than a little astounded how it spoke to exactly what I think poetry is as a form of change. Because for me, poetry was always this incantory intention. It was a way to enact awareness, a way to enact healing and change, not only in perception, but also in language. I realized that there is a really big part of what we need to change is the language. We have outdated language that can be harmful, and just changing simple things, erasing things that are not healthy to forwarding us as women. Those need to be terms that we no longer use, just a little shift like that. And doing this in turn, practicing this, I think it incites a sort of revolution in other poets, and those poets inciting a revolution in the hearts of other people, to add to that spell, to add to this global spell that we're creating through poem or through words, and then words eventually becoming action that becomes social change. It's a ripple effect, I think, that stirs the desire for these words to manifest into action, and then that into conscious and impactful activism.
Thank you. Community and collaboration. Poetry often brings people together, as we know. Have you experienced any collaborative efforts or connections with other women poets globally? And how has this influenced your creative process?
I'm glad that you asked me that question, Michael, because last year I had organized and hosted a women's storyteller showcase. And my goal in doing that had been to bring together women who were from vastly different backgrounds so that they could tell us about the periods in their life that left a very indelible impression on them and ultimately shape the women that they are right now. What I found was most illuminating to me was not these obvious differences in their upbringing, which obviously happens when you're coming from different countries, cultures, but it was in the pathways that formed them to be these advocates of free expression, people who seek equity and self-determination for women. What was startling was that how these endpoints or these goals were actually a common thread among us, the commonality of it. So I really do try to be mindful, these lessons, the commonality of it, and try to incorporate it in the themes that I write about in my poetry.
In terms of intersectionality, which is a metaphor that describes how multiple forms of inequality can compound themselves to create obstacles, how does your identity as a woman intersect with other aspects of your identity, such as race, ethnicity, sexuality, and how does it manifest itself in your poetry?
More and more, when considering that question, what comes to mind right now is how I have very cohesively, more now in the last few years, connected with my cultural roots. I speak the language more in respecting its traditions, as well as challenging some of these traditions that are outdated and harmful to me. I'm finding how this identity, which for me was once something that was in a different area, and my being a woman in a different area, that it's not separate from what comprises how I define myself as a woman. It creates the whole. It's very integral. And I found that it's become very necessary for me to process for myself and to help other people to process and what they believe a woman is or isn't. In conjunction with that, a similar journey has actually been happening around my removal of this stricturing, this confinement that surrounds mine and other preconceived notions of what my own sexuality entails. Why really should it be ever one thing or the other, or fall under the standardized definition? We should have that freedom to define it for ourselves. I really try to convey this in what I write by telling of, the best way to do it is by telling of my own experiences in coming to these realizations.
Thank you. Anna Maria Dall-Olio, Italy.
Lascia la scia. Tra macchina e macchina a tutto rischio, strafatto d'aroma, d'odore di rischio, rotola clochard nel fango revischio, sol rimanenza. Lascia la scia dalla fasulescenza, Natale bussa solo all'apparenza. Ronzano vicino, porta pazienza, sei senza pacchi, neanche da terra sembra le stacchi, ma se le piccole monadi attacchi, cadranno tutte come tanti sacchi. Miseri cuori.
Jennifer M. Garnatz, Jamaica.
My first poem is titled Talent Hunt. It was written many years ago, and it's actually still relevant in today's society. Were I a man and not a woman, your price would have been money, not an unjustified, undeserving sampling of my precious body. I'll make it on my own. I'll make it all alone. I'll get there someday, even if I'm old and gray. My second poem was inspired by a man I admire greatly. His name is Prasanna Kumar, and he's the co-founder of the India-based International Poetry Society, the Fertile Brains. They are on YouTube and on Facebook. He wrote a poem, and the first two lines of it began with these words: "Now, let me tell you something, which, of course, is nothing." These two lines inspired my next poem. This poem is titled You Let Me Down. I told you everything, buried in the depths of my conscious heart, outpouring my emotions, hoping to let those loving words float, my innermost feelings airborne, seeking to merge within your heart. Sadly, they bounced off, floating into oblivion, revealing your refusal to reciprocate feelings of sincerity. Thought you were ready for me. Thought you were ready for us. Too late, I now realize you were only fooling around with me. My heart belongs no longer to me. I can now only dazedly glide through each day, regretting my naivety. Hopefully, one day, these feelings of love will die, vanish into thin air, so my heart can live, feel alive, survive carefree, to give its love to someone else more worthy of it, to someone else more worthy of me. My next poem is titled Brave Woman. Poverty-stricken women of yesteryears, toiling in the fields, toiling in the homes, babies growing in their bellies, still toiling till time of deliveries. Women of yesteryears, freedom fighters, war heroes, Jamaican national hero Nanny of the Maroons, slave revolutionaries, paving the way for their male counterparts who bask in their glory. Women of yesterday, unrecognized book authors, painters, composers, X-ray inventor, nursing pioneers, flight pioneers, mathematical geniuses, sending mails safely to outer space, returning their spaceship safely back to Earth, all due to a brainy Black woman's grace. Women of today, leaders of nations, business executives, astronauts, doctors, nurses, engineers, pilots, scientists, actresses, truck drivers, mechanics, top models, pop stars, painters, and more. For women of tomorrow will continue to share the sorrow of poor women of today, still toiling in the fields, still toiling in the homes, still toiling till time of deliverance. Many women have come a long way. Still, many more women remain confined to their homes, prevented by men from getting a solid education, engaging in their desired profession. Will there ever one day be retribution? My next poem is titled Journey to Your Mind. A lot of men don't open up themselves to women. This poem is just asking them to do. Let me journey to your mind, honey. Only then can I tell if you were really meant to be mine. Good looks alone is not enough for me to judge someone by. Personality and a good mind are what really gets me high. First, I must journey to a hidden place that truly reveals who and what you are. Do let me journey to your mind. Only then can I tell if you were really meant to be mine. Let me journey to your mind. I love you deeply. I cannot tell you that, not yet. I need you badly. I cannot reveal all that, not yet. When may I journey to your mind? When will you unlock the door? When will you let me in? I need to know what goes on in there. I need to know, I just must know if you're the one for me to share my life with. I do so want to share myself, all my love with you. I've opened up all my doors, but you are still a mystery. I gave you me. Should I not have given all? Does your holding back mean the beginning of my fall? Give me even just a little glance. It will reveal to me if there is the remotest chance. Locking me out is neither loving nor kind. Do let me journey to your mind. My next poem, I'm addressing the men. It's titled, Man, Is That All? Man, you seduce woman, plant a child in her womb. She lovingly allows it to grow, giving birth to a new life, her loving present to you. You, man, send it away to fight in wars, ridding it of its life. You present it to her, its corpse in a coffin, shipped back home, engulfed in a flag. You send her sons and daughters back home mutilated, abandoned veterans, left to become homeless, jobless. Man, is that all woman is good for? Giving birth to your statistics for war?
My personality allows me to accept all humans, regardless of their religion, their nationality, their race, their spirituality, beliefs, and their sexual orientation. As long as someone treats me with respect, I will accept you into my life and give you the same respect and friendliness and kindness you deserve. My next poem is titled Gay Friend. It was inspired by a gay colleague who always came to me whenever he had problems, whether it was problems in the office or problems in his love life. And knowing how men usually come on to women when we seek help from them, it's nice to also have a gay friend who you know you can confide in, you can spend time with, without this person coming on to you sexually. So with this poem, I'm honoring all gay men. Gay friend. I want to capture the hearts of gay men because I need a very good friend, someone I can trust and rely on, someone who's soft and yet quite strong. I want to capture the hearts of gay men. I need a man's strong shoulder to cry on when my heterosexual lover lets me down. A man who won't take advantage of my weakness by pressuring me to experience his sexiness. A friend who won't exploit my lonely situation by coming on to me with his sexual obsession. I need someone who is not so many other men, someone who is sensitive to the feelings of all women. That's why I want to capture the hearts of gay men, because I need a very good friend, someone who's soft and yet quite strong, someone I can trust and rely on. A gay man will always possess strong masculine shoulders to lean on and comforting arms that can hold and caress. No more, no less. My next poem is titled The Beginning of the End. It was actually inspired by a very sad story of a mother of 5 children who accepted a digital challenge on social media to eat as many marshmallows as possible. Sadly, she choked to death. Beginning of the end. This moment, this year, is the beginning of the end. Between now and then, a time we know not when. Do you want to climb the social ladder, feeding your fans daily, weekly, pictures and words to boost your growing ego, though deep down, I know, we both know, you are not really an egoist. Mother of 5 children suddenly died accepting digital challenges to gain adoration, likes, stuffing mouth with marshmallows, choking to death. It's not worthy you endangering your life, knowingly, unknowingly, for people who do not know you. Likes are not more important than your self-esteem, your family, your life. Rest in peace to you and those victims of stupid digital challenges. Avoiding a challenge ought to be your priority. You lose your life losing the challenge. Tempting temptation, getting high on digital adoration, daily, hourly, quickly scanning your fan post, shocked to read negative criticism, mobbing. Suddenly realizing it's not all fans of yours who make their way onto your blogs, their words creating fogs in your brain. Your eyes blurred with tears of desolation. Don't let your mind betray you, forcing you to entertain suicidal thoughts. They are not worth it. That's the life of starlets. Live for yourself. Ignore their selfishness. Live for the Almighty. Faith can give you courage, peace of mind. Live to be true to yourself. Don't let them mess up your brain. Don't give them power over your life, becoming suicidal. They are not worthy of you abandoning you for the bullies bullying you. My next poem, Tactics. I'm addressing all men and boys who have intimate relationships with women or those who intend to. I'm requesting, don't brand us. Because just as how you may think we are easy, we may also say the same about you. Tactics. You sized me up, lusting. I smiled inwardly, waiting. My cool expression did not betray me, but I too wanted you. Your yearning gave your legs courage. They brought you to me way up close. You speeched me down. While your heart loaned your lips its voice, I felt your excitement, inhaled in sweet ecstasy your heavenly scent. I allowed you to court me. As I finally gave in, giving you my all, you began sticking out your chest like a proud cock, going around boasting to all your friends, stating you captured me easily. Bullshit. I too had eyed you, lusting, wanting. Oh yes, I too wanted to possess you. Now I've got ya. Ha! What is left inside? What is left inside is a me never before seen, not even by me. What is left inside is a female queen ready to take on new challenges, ready to challenge those seeking to put me down. What is left inside is an eagle spirit soaring high, ready to conquer all I set my mind to do. What is left inside is a me of respect, admiration worthy. What is left inside is a me, a beautiful soul, a human being of greatness worthy. My next poem is titled Released. It was inspired by a painting by Brian McFarlane, a Jamaican professor of art who teaches in Boston University. She sits in yoga pose, seeking inner peace after going through hell, mentally tormented, physically abused by her lover. Now she is recuperating, finding solace, gaining inner strength, no more a victim of menace, no more visible scars without, no more visible scars within. She is now her own woman again, content, strong, joyful, all in a hurt experienced, released. She really is now free. This next poem is a typical example of me being inspired by a documentary of an Arab woman, young woman, wanting to flee from her family. I won't say from which country, because she was afraid they would do a honor killing. She reached the airport. They followed her. Fortunately, an international aid group was at the airport at the same time, so they took her aside and protected her. She's now in Canada. But thinking of her problems made me look at the world as such, wishing I could do things to change the situation happening. This poem is titled, Being a Human in Nature. I am human, a female. Oh, I so wish I could join the little brown black squirrels opposite my balcony, playfully leaping from twig to twig, up the tree, down the tree, disappearing in the shrubbery. I am human, an adult female, living in a land of conformity, forced to conform to the rules of men. Oh, I so wish there were thousands of courageous men to speak up in support of modern thinking women like me. I wish I could fly away like a bird across the ocean to a distant place. No one to snatch my passport, to snatch my phone. Not fearing any male guardian, not needing Amnesty International's help in my quest for freedom to board an aeroplane. Oh, I so wish I could fly away on my own. I really would love to flee. I wish I were a whale, an octopus, free to dive into the depths of the ocean, seeing the beautiful, colorful fishes, seahorses, amazing corals, visiting so many diverse nations' seas. I am female, only human. I wish I were a bird, a bright-winged eagle able to see for miles, atop a mountain or the tallest tree. I'd glide down to the birds, telling them, twitter to the others, tell all insects, wild animals and trees, send out warnings, the loggers are coming to again destroy our sanctuary. I wish I were a banyan tree, tall and strong, declared a national heritage, free from becoming someone's firewood or furniture, tall enough to see for miles, giving shade to birds, elephants, lions, other animals wild. I wish I were grass in the residential and city parks, happily sipping the water being sprayed upon me daily, seeing, enjoying, feeling children frolicking on my tiny soft leaves. I wish I were a mountain, so high I could see and feel the clouds pushing away the sun, bathing my peak, shading my peak, tiny space for a slight sun streak. I wish I were the rain, falling heavily, nourishing the vegetation, quenching the thirsty rivers, water reservoirs, the mighty desert, gladly keeping us all alive. I wish I were the sun, stars and moon, looking down at Earth's beautiful landscape, escaping, not daily enlivening, the ghastly destruction humans are causing. I wish I were land. I'd reserve a large part for the natives whom I'd identify by the smell of their breaths, whose feet I'd enjoy feeling lovingly walking, their children prancing, running over me, all honoring my plants, my trees, my waters, taking extremely good care of me. Were I land, I'd revolt, making stumble, incapable of standing straight, the colonialists, intruders whose greediness caused native peoples in Africa, Alaska, America, Caribbean, Australia, India, New Zealand, the Antarctic, or the territories to become homeless by overpricing me unrightfully, deeming me their own property. Were I land, I'd let their feet stumble and fall, their vehicles stuck deep in my soil, each time they tried to cross the reserved borders of my native peoples. Alas, I am only one human, devoid of authority. I am female, mother of male. Oh, I so wish I were metal, wood, gunpowder. I'd revolt against being made into guns or the weapons of mass destruction, so genocide by all races could never be linked to my man-given name. Gun, rifle, pistol, machine gun. I'd revolt so cops can finally do things right by not shooting, murdering unarmed innocent black people like Dawn to Right. I'd revolt when taken to schools so children could not be massacred. I'd stole my trigger so it could not be pulled back. I'd swell my bullet so it remained inside stuck. I'd revolt so human sons and daughters could not misuse me to commit crimes for drugs, sex, gaining money illicitly. I am female, only human. Oh, how I wish I were nature in paradise, not being destroyed by man, instead living peacefully among all creatures and humans. Oh, how I wish I were nature in paradise.
Thank you. Jennifer, in terms of intersectionality, how does your identity as a woman intersect with other aspects of your identity, such as race, ethnicity, or sexuality? How does it manifest itself in your poetry?
Okay, as a Jamaican woman, I react to things differently from maybe an American woman or a British woman or whatever. And as a Black woman, I also feel differently about various things that are happening. And all of this is reflected in my poems because I write poems on different themes. I write erotic poems, spiritual poems, romantic poems dealing with society. I'm a very deep person. My father was murdered, so therefore crime and social issues play a very large part also in my poetry. So my identity, what I've experienced, what I see, my Jamaican nationality, and then being a Black woman living in Germany, all of that sort of comes out in my poems.
Activism and art are important. In what ways does your poetry serve as a form of activism, especially in relation to women's rights and empowerment? How do you see the intersection between your art and social change on a global scale?
I have quite a few poems that one could say deal with activism. For instance, I've written a poem titled Kyra, which is about an American woman who, due to negligence in the hospital, died an hour after giving birth to a child. Her husband has, in the meantime, got a bill passed dealing with that issue. Poems dealing with women's children who have to be sent to war to fight for their countries. What about the woman who gives birth to her child and then loses the child due to war? Then there's also the sexual issue of men calling women cheap simply because, or easy, simply because they go to bed with them without first being married. When I say it works both ways, the woman can say that about the man too. So there are lots of issues that I deal with in my poems, which relate to women on a global scale.
Global perspectives. In what ways do you see your poetry contributing to a global conversation about women's experiences?
Since I write a lot of poems dealing with women's suffering, as well as naturally the positive aspects also, then naturally those who listen to my poems, be they men or women, I would hope that they get inspired by my poems and discuss among themselves whatever theme I've been dealing with in my poems.
Thank you. In honor of International Women's Day 2024, here are two voices from India.
Greetings of the day. My name is Pragya Chakraborty. I study in grade 4. I live in India. I'm 9 years old. And today I am going to recite a poetry. The title is She is a Caregiver. Being a selfless entity, she is very gentle. If something happens, she never sits dull. She is tolerant and has an extreme zeal to help. All our wounds she can heal. When you see they are beaming, it feels like we are dreaming. Being very polite and skillful for our care, they're always very willful. This society must acknowledge her contributions and respect her for her devotion, as they always sacrifice and concern. They remain as our caregivers, mothers, daughters, sisters, and friends. Their undaunted courage is not a child's play. Let's wish every woman today for being an angel in our lives. A very happy Women's Day. Thank you.
Greetings for the day. This is Somdatta Mitra from India. Over the celebrations of International Women's Day, I greet each and every woman in the world a very happy Women's Day. I have written a self-written poem with the title, She is Bold and Beautiful. As dulcet as a nightingale their songs resonate, their effervescence, bold demeanor, impacts all and venerate. Their esoteric philosophical debates and bell spirit blithely enhance their zealous instincts. Women today are strong and bold to confront any ferocity. Their uproarious pulchritude complements their Elysian virtuosity. They are the cheerleaders in their family and boldly enjoy their ride in a cavalry. In an epoch as I asunder the debates over gender inequality, as a bird I praise God for creating such a sylph-like, whose lenity and sempiternal generosity appeals to all. She is contemporary, confident, prudent, with a vestal heart to gird. Often she is crabbed with a conflagration to diatribe for her rights. In a convivial manner, she tries to persuade with a might, forbearing the oppressions she vehemently trigger attacks. She rises from the flames of depravity like a phoenix in a cessation. Her bold countenance can lead to a compunction. When she administers the debunk or expose someone through her dauntless courage, women are most powerful today, with compassion, concern, and complete understanding of their existence. Their firm decisions compel the disheveled situations to a dismal coy. They are no longer a caged bird. Their expectations and perfervid desires lead to successful social anchors. Thank you.
Nayma Chamchoun, England.
No filter. This is me. Here I sit, growing into my age jacket, accepting my invisibility, rebuking my fragility. Am I irrelevant, wearing my wrinkles as a sackcloth and ashes? Should I reinvent myself for the applause of the social media masses? Twittering on Twitter, showcasing shells on Insta, scrolling and trolling, perfecting personas on FB, photoshopping naive, a veil of airbrush sadness. I need more because I am less. Filtering faces, not words, subsisting on praises, captive in light cages. The eyes that don't see me, the ears that don't hear me. Should I put on my filter and dance to the hollow beat of a digital trance? A pound of flesh under the knife, erasing evidence of a lived life, fattening up my lips and arse, a fatted calf. As a stranger berates me in the looking glass. Are my eyebrows on fleek? Am I scathingly savage enough? Am I too woke or not enough. I log in and await your critique. Let's celebrate the cover, not the book. Post the pic as the panel rates you. Have an opinion, and we hate you. Immersing ourselves in the virtual brook. I have wandered the London streets, donning my expiry as an invisibility cloak, as the gaze of the lit quickly retreats before dissolving into the city's big smoke. I have sat with Eliot as we shared despair. After shop worn, shared niceties over tea and cakes and ices, exchanging troughs and peaks as we laughed and cried, bitching with Bukowski, waving to Sylvia as we died inside. Empty voices filling the space with speech, their flawless faces behind a screen. Me, out of touch. Them, out of reach. Where reality in the virtual scheme I have haunted, a void in between. Should I question the truth? I was believing the lie. The hordes blocked to TikTok. Famous. 3 minutes. To shock. To rock. To mock. To exhibit. Without limit. But I am old. And the light in their eyes has died. Limbo. Africa calling. A convoy in the shadows. Constant and ever present. A home, but not a home. Anointing my edges. Still, I fit nowhere. Here, my name is foreign. My appearance questioned. But where are you from? Originally, probes Goldilocks, cornfields in her hair. I have reconciled with the damp, dark streets pierced by dimples of obtrusive artificial light, illuminating an artificial pond. The dry wit and caustic humour, the sarcasm, the armour we wear, the sleazy sullied snickers of bawdry backstreet jokes, the women who reject gazing at the floor, audaciously holding his stare, the jangle of frenetic city life, the busy lives of others, filtering into our busy breath, in the darkened alcoves and desolate cubicles of existence. Sartre echoed, "You are in bad company." The clattering coffee shops amid sips of acrid Arabica, the inane monologues on current affairs, clandestine consultations, temporary respite, soaked in caffeine and butter pastries. London calling, cosmopolitan and enthralling. It is the home of a lodger, the key to the kingdom, presenting the illusion of belonging without belonging. The solitude, as natural as blinking. There, My name is familiar, my appearance fusing with the dry alleyways and whitewashed facades, facing off the fierce sun. In the hodgepodge pavement cafes, where once Ginsberg and Jean Genet supped on mint tea, where tolerance is privately practiced, but never publicly preached. The lamb and cumin-infused air that coils and slithers for reclining across your skin like an impermeable veil. The language of my ancestors, tinged by Britishness. My speech fluent, yet betraying, as wide-eyed locals chuckle like a pacifying parent. You're not from here, are you? In the Medinas, the night sky turns down the heat as families parade their best attire. Sunflower seeds whose saltiness fizzes on the tongue, sugar-roasted peanuts washed down with canary iced lemonade. The men who gawk belligerently, their eyes betraying the indignity of a shameless woman who refuses to look away. The crested clay tagines joyously bubbling away. Terracotta fat jolly uncles. The enticing wisps of flavour. The fragrance of l'enfance. The Gnawa drum beats. A throbbing pulse. Dancing. Chanting. Healing. A portal to the beloved on the wings of a trance. A cultural hub that captivates and offends. A shared identity, an organic pond, rich with community, kindness, support, love. To serve is to be with Allah. The allotted roles, deeming marriage and its fruits the paragon of ambition. Gender hindered, scornful eyes from the arbiters of decency as I light my cigarette. I am without decency and without God, casting off the shackles of both, the dogma, belief or illusion, and the clutches of tradition, bleeding, bequeathed injury, spurred on by my scars. You're not from here, are you? The cross of the diaspora, life's longing for the other, each suit offering some comfort, but ill-fitting nonetheless. The unmoored mall. In the scorched Arab Peninsula, the Brotherhood faces the Qibla. The oil field runneth over. I am the poor relation, too African to qualify. In sub-Saharan Africa, where the forests are shrinking, in the mines, very twinkling, scrambled Africa on toast for the first world we host, rejected by the flock, too Arab for Africa. In the place of my birth, the gluttonous annals of power, exploited labor devoured. Without recourse, a Trojan horse, foraging for riches unearthed, a geographical accident, birth, a square peg in an ethnic box, identity in a tick, which self to pick, a nullidad's paradox. On the grind, dressed in the threads of adulthood, forging the bonds that bind. Together in troubled times, when you can't see past the wood, harvesting and investing, delayed gratification, grafting out of your station, consume time without digesting, dreams of someday, get your foot on the property ladder, save on indulgences, and work harder. All work and no play. Put in the hours to rise. A promotion or bonus for Jack. Greasing the cogs to pick up the slack. Strangled by the tie that ties. Grind your bones to make his bread. In a suit, suited for ambition. Silence, mental health's attrition. There is no success for the dead. Sacrifice for the future. Feather your pension to cushion the blow. Retire abroad in a rustic chateau. Eider down for the stupor. A partner to shoulder the burden. A mortgage to swallow your labour. Life's force fueling the conveyor. Together picking out curtains. I am not Berber. I am not a Berber. A barbarian of Greek generals and Roman raiders, cowering in the dust, conquered and crushed. Illegitimate invaders, marauding coveted minerals, advancing your empires further. The enemies at the gate, the carpeted caliphates, a pie divided in two, half for me and half for you. Gracias. Merci. Adieu. I am a powerful Amazi who has smirked at adversity for thousands of years, flicking dusty tears, sipping warm mint tea, a syra dripped from the wounds of the nomad fraternity, rising stronger from the debris. My tongue peppered with Arabic, French and Spanish, souvenirs I cannot vanquish. My words, an oral history of defeat and victory, immersed in rhythmic Maghreb music. I cannot be erased or silenced by the creed of the conquerors with their patriarchal parlance. I am of Al-Kahina, the conjurers, a matriarchal warrior queen. Neither faith nor power can defeat a heart forged in desert heat. Beware my spectacular spleen. Sands battered by the winds, I travel across the globe in Al-Maghrib woven robes and olive grove skin. One day you will say Berber, and I will see our ancestors, the civilized, the barbarian, the Amazi, the invader, the jailer, and liberty's dame. I will face you with fervor as I majestically assume my role. Hear my ululations, rising above tribulation throughout history. I am Amazi. Thank you.
Thank you, Nayma.
Intersectionality. Nayma, how does your identity as a woman intersect with other aspects of your identity, such as race, ethnicity, or sexuality? And how does it manifest in your poetry?
I think my cultural identity certainly touches on most aspects about myself. Racially, I'm aware that I am not seen as English, and I became aware of this in my childhood when I realized my home environment was culturally very different to my outside environment, where racist views were prevalent and openly expressed. Sexually, I believe it's played a significant part in that in North African culture, there is a certain element of shame attached to a woman's sexuality. She is supposed to remain chaste and pure for her husband, provides an umbrella of respectability. Sex outside of marriage certainly happens, but where it is accepted behavior for a man, a woman who is sexually active and commands her own voice and body is seen negatively and viewed as promiscuous and without virtue, respectability, or value. It is a patriarchal system which facilitates the male savior theory of a woman being defined, damned, or saved by the archetypal protector. It took me years to dismantle that aspect of my own cultural conditioning and to own my own sexuality without shame or stigma, because I refuse to bow to or be measured by patriarchal standards. I have certainly tackled these issues in my work because they are things that I feel strongly about. Oppression in all its forms, be it racially, religiously, or gender motivated. And because I feel it is important to give a voice to these issues, to uplift and empower women who are disadvantaged in cultures where aspects of themselves are stigmatized, restricted, or silenced.
In terms of literary inspirations, are there specific women poets from other cultures who have inspired or influenced your work?
Gosh, oh my Lord, so many. Obviously, the magnificent Maya Angelou, who was beautifully impactful, not only as a poet and an author, but also as a fierce activist whose powerful voice so resonated with me. Sylvia Plath, who tackles mental health in fragility with such strong imagery and expression. And a writer who is probably less well known, Rida Inait Atik, who was an Amazigh indigenous North African poet born in 1900. And she wrote in the indigenous North African language, Tashlir, and traveled around performing her work orally and with music, and is credited as the founder of Sheikha groups, women folk music groups in Morocco. She produced free collections of beautiful work which explore identity and nature and how beneficial nature's effects are on us as individuals. Her collections were translated by a French civil servant who lived in Morocco at the time. She also explores themes of identity and feminism as well. And her voice certainly resonated with me.
In terms of activism and art, in what ways does your poetry serve as a form of activism, especially in relation to women's rights and empowerment? How do you see the intersection between your art and social change on a global scale?
I believe literature will always be relevant and of cultural and historical significance. If we look at the impact of, say, the beatnik poets during this, or poets during the civil rights movement, or the war poets, writers who offered personal insight into the changes and evolution of the world and gave a voice to marginalized groups. For example, Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird shone a light on racial inequalities, or authors and poets who offered the perspective of people under colonization or in times of great upheaval. Literature is different to, say, news reports, in the sense that it's not merely reporting the factual or why or how, but is conveying the human story and experience. As readers, we emotionally connect with literature, and if women are able to read my work and are inspired to challenge systems that seek to keep them in subservience, then we have ripples in the pond. Whether it is in education or the women who tore off their headscarves, these are ripples which change the tide.
Thank you.
Marianne Teftt, Canada, Sint Maarten.
I'm going to read several poems inspired by women and their experiences around the world, and some of my own. The first poem is Women, Life, Freedom, for a group by that name in Iran. I am only one small child in a clan of women who have preserved all we know since the beginning of time, in the way we move our hands and hips and the path our hair carves through the breeze. In other times and more forgiving places, my sisters freed their fingers of rings that bind them in unquestionable subservience and loosed their milk to flow at bus stops, beaches, and in classrooms that welcome them with my nieces and nephews in their arms. Yet still we fight for freedom and life. For even after thousands of journeys of the moon since our prophets walked our hallowed hills, I am not yet my own when I leave my father's home or bring my howling legacy into the world, but only when my spirit folds my lifeless arms across my chest and departs this plane for the last time. The next poem is Fire. When you are known as too intense, there comes a time when you no longer ask whether this is true or just their way of nudging you into an ever smaller space. For all you have ever known is the urge to stand in the flames until your heart bursts with all-consuming heat and joy. You have learned to turn up your lips into what passes for a mild smile, for none asks fire to change its ways. The ponderosa pine is immune from questions about why its skin hangs shaggy like unmatched pieces of a jigsaw puzzle to repel glancing flames. None looks askance at the short-leaf pine who buries her buds among outstretched roots that she may fight fire with fire after a blaze, or asks why the pines, hickory and prickly, seal their cones inside waxy coats until scorching heat forces their hands to spill their secrets across the forest floor. You have never understood the epithets that try to give the bad rap to passion, for you are no different than the dryland trees who must bravely meet fire with grace to survive. I can no longer sift the striata of our lives to understand the reasons why you hold our feet to the flames when you know we have spent months dousing flare-ups that threaten to erupt as spontaneous combustion. Like a child who cannot resist the urge to spill the Cracker Jack and rip open the prize, only to hold that plastic magnifier up to the sun, you watch as simple things sizzle, smoking with nearly imperceptible threads of imagined grievance, raised by degrees, until we are left with only the ashes from which we began to mine for clues. On Valentine's Day, 2024, I was given a very beautiful gift. I was told that my surname, Tefft, means the place where the house has stood. And strong house. Days when our backs are bowed beneath the weight of love across the months and miles, we celebrate the nights we lie together to share our dreams with hands to stroke knotted spines, warm palms to fair all burrs, and tongues we bite decisively where once they spun like the blades of planes prepared to flee stone by stone. Sorrow by pleasure, grief by joy, we are building a strong house to shelter all the gold of our days. The next poem is for my daughter Julia, who is recuperating from a grievous motorcycle accident at this time. It's called Storm Horse. I unburied my chin from my mother's neck and turned my face to the snow for the first time at only 3 days old. Even before my father slowed the revolving door that we could bundle into the moving wedge, I yearned for raspberried cheeks, frosted lashes fluttering like impatient nestlings in the stiff December breeze. Through the years, I have come to cherish the palette of a winter's night, silver, argent, gunmetal gray, and the monochromatic calm of full moon shine. As I walk a midnight path, ablaze in the river of heaven, amid the squalls and torrents of autumn and spring, I am the storm horse who flees the sheltering roof, daring the elements, yet sure-footed, certain that I will outpace every lightning bolt if only I can slip my harness and turn to face the gale. Dead butterfly. Bleach-scented tile of a near-vacant scooter shop, where neither she nor I spoke the language. Orange butterfly rolled to her left, with spotted wings, one atop the other, locked in the delicate stillness of prayer. As nature whispered, a page has turned. My inner voice could not look away. For I know a new chapter will surely open in her life and mine. Before the fresh start comes the pause. Like the bulb that rests in winter earth, yet rears a sunlit cup in spring, change is the constant season, and inner strength rises with the hopeful green. And again, for my daughter, please. I cannot resist the urge to comb my fingers through her hair, run my palm across a stubbly lawn, fit to sift. Please. I cannot resist the urge to comb my fingers through her hair, run my palm across a stubbly lawn to sift through a robin's nest filled with earth-toned memories, equal parts sand, blood, and L'Oreal, more honey Thacker than Anna Scott. I stand and sway to the techno-beat of life-giving machines, grateful to give her this simple gift. She rouses and murmurs, "Mama, you keep pulling my hair." I choose to think I hear her say please, and I hold fast to each striated strand as her tendrils vine ever closer around my heart. Patchwork. From a tangled mat of emerald, amethyst buds lift tenacious heads the color of Caribbean sunset, whose nightly hands bid easy rest to the day. Beside them, a quilt of interlocking stones, stippled in the tones of ancient bruises, like my daughter's fresh-mown crown. On this hopeful path, among tangles and omens, what stands in the way becomes the way. The urge to thrive shoulders past each obstacle, and love donates the letters of its name to the rearrangement of life. Super Bowl Sunday. The girl in the lavender romper adds another half scoop of Fruit Loops to her bowl, despite her mother's admonishment. She holds the breakfast rainbow at her waist as her eyes fall on the thick bloom of toilet paper that stands beside my coffee cup. She smiles and wishes me a good day. I wonder if she already knows that a roll of this kind is just right to flow with the currents of tears and joy that bruised hearts and minds take their time to absorb. The generosity of death. In the hungry cold after Christmas, the silvered hair of the deer clings to the margins of the muddy pool, thick and dark as unmilked espresso, torn from a blood-stained flank whose bones lie weeping on the viscous shore, not yet as brittle as the chamomile burrs and sepia grasses that cushion the forest floor. You might be tempted to think that only the skeleton of the nimble ruminant who unwisely lowered her guard to an interloper remains to sadden the eyes of passers-by. But I have seen the woods are rich with the generosity of death. For the sated coyotes still leave their grateful footprints in the matted snow. Fat ravens and crows circle contentedly, and if you raise a stick to prod a little, you will see mice have found a warm cul-de-sac, while unnamed microscopia swarm their newest premises in an unquestioned circle of life in which there is nothing to guard or protect for another day that will not come. So it also must be for you and me. When your body returns to its original soil, know that I will celebrate your memory the way comets celebrate the winter sky, that it may nourish minds and hearts beyond our simple quotidian paths and soar above the forest with the durable kindness of summer eagles and the bountiful knowledge of that ever-beneficent white-tailed deer. And finally, I'd offer this particular poem to all of my poet friends around the world and throughout the Zoomverse. It's called Storytellers. You did not ask for the shoulders of the elephant to bear the weight of pitiless centuries. You did not seek to rise above the plains like the giraffe that knows only what clouds may know. You did not consent to the hide of the sequoia to withstand stinging salt, cringing heat, torments of insects and unbridled fire. You did not beg for the heart of the lion to lead where none will follow. You did not petition for a throat to open wide as the pouch of a pelican, nor a voice to ring from it more crisply than 1,000 copper bells. You did not invite the hands that hold the pen that cannot back down from the righteous rhyme. You are every ancient curse, and by them we are blessed. Thank you.
Marianne, in terms of intersectionality, how does your identity as a woman intersect with other aspects of your identity, such as race, ethnicity, or sexuality, and how does it manifest in your poetry?
I guess something that does come through pretty strongly in a great deal of my poetry is the fact that I'm a mother. And I have dreamed my daughter, Julia, on numerous occasions, and I've written poems about those dreams. The Night I Dreamed of Dolphins, Premonition Dreams, Synchronicity, To My Child Before I Go, and several of the poems that I read here, not necessarily dreamed, but definitely inspired by my one and only child. So that's been very important to me in my career as a poet, for sure.
Another important topic is community and collaboration. Poetry often brings people together. Have you experienced any collaborative efforts or connections with other women poets globally? And how has this influenced your creative process?
Yes, it absolutely has. I've had the great pleasure, as have so many poets these last couple of years, in the COVID period and thereafter, to become involved in the Zoomverse as a regular reader and participant. And there, I've had the pleasure of listening to so many women from around the world. I have collaborated with Elizabeth Sophia Strauss, known as Deadpan Lizzie, a New York City-based poet. I've had the privilege of having my work published by Phynne Belle in her new publication, Myri Literary Journal. I've had the opportunity and look forward again this coming summer in July to collaborating with my birthday twin, Genevieve Ray, in the UK, who shares July 19th as a birth date with me. So I've really had a great opportunity to get to know many women through the Zoomverse especially, and to have the real privilege of getting to know them as poets and women and ultimately as friends.
Speaking of global perspectives, so in what ways do you see your poetry contributing to a global conversation about women's experiences?
I think poetry is incredibly important because we as poets somehow manage to dare to say the things that others can't say. We pick up that aegis sometimes and we carry it. We take the risks and we speak for those who are silent for whatever reasons. And I've had the opportunity as a poet, for example, to work with a group called Poetry X Hunger on several occasions that my work has been published by them online. And I've participated in conferences together with other poets speaking out against poverty and hunger. And I've taken the opportunity to submit work to publications that are anti-gun violence, for example, anti-war. The particular poem, Women, Life, Freedom, that I read to start the set is a poem that I had written specifically for a call for submissions by a women's group by that name, Women, Life, Freedom, in Iran. So I think it's incredibly important where we can as women that we raise our voices for those who cannot, in solidarity with those who are burdened, women particularly, men as well, around the world. And we as poets have a huge responsibility, but the privilege of doing this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Still craving poetry? Hundreds of episodes of the Quintessential Listening Poetry online radio and YouTube podcast are available to listen to or download on iTunes, Spotify, and other streaming platforms. To learn more about the popular podcast or how to become a guest, visit www.QLPORYT.com. Till next time, take care and let poetry ring somewhere throughout the land.